Hi, and welcome to this video on inclusivity for energy workers and consumers. I'm Alicia Julia Wilson Takaoka, and I will be your instructor for this lecture. In this module, we'll explore how the energy decisions we make in different contexts, whether academia, industry, NGOs, municipalities, and governments, impact consumers and companies and their behavior. We will understand the social impact of energy policies, learn about the challenges and opportunities that policies create for workers, and we'll explore the challenges and opportunities of policies on consumers. Energy policy happens at a very high level. They often begin in international organizations such as the United Nations, and then they get passed on to national governments. At the national level, these policies take shape as consumer protections, initiatives, or mandates with clear, strategic, and targeted goals. From there, they're passed on to local governments, and in turn, they must be adopted by NGOs, businesses, and academia. It's a cross-sectorial implementation that's required in order to align these policies and mandates. What may not always be considered is that there are social aspects to energy policies, even if they happen at a very high level. Social impacts include how behavior is affected. For example, some consumers may feel empowered and be able to adopt new technologies. Others may be at a disadvantage and unable to implement these energy policies as easily. We also see influences in energy market dynamics. Energy policies impact trading, which tools are developed, which ideas and innovations are adopted, and which ideas and innovations are left behind. A key concern is the risk of placing additional burdens on vulnerable groups during the adaptation of energy policies. Whether you work in a business, NGO, local government, or any other sector, there are ways for you to assess the impact of these policies. So as you're considering how to best implement or adopt an energy policy, you should look at 3 dimensions. First, what is the distributional impact on different groups, especially the vulnerable ones? How will different members of a community or your organization be impacted once this policy is implemented? Have you consulted with stakeholders from those communities or groups? And do you understand from their perspective the positive and negative effects of this policy adoption? Next are the dynamic effects on consumer behavior and market dynamics. How will this energy policy impact consumer behavior? Again, both positively and negatively. Do consumers have the ability to participate? Do they have financial agency and autonomy to act? Have you met with these stakeholders and mapped out the barriers and challenges they might face? Third, you should consider the interaction between different policies. Again, policies are enacted at an international level and then translated into national and local measures. It's important to consider how these interact with each other and how that interrelation will play out when you implement them in your sector. In businesses, municipalities, and different industries, there are workers, people who make up your organization, and who work collectively towards common goals. So it's important to consider the impact of the energy transition on workers. There are several challenges, including the need for reskilling and upskilling. If you are going to adopt a new technology, for example, you need people who know how to use it. Do workers come out of school knowing how to use it? If you want to retain some of your best workers, do you have the incentives for them to reskill so they can work with the new technology? Can they upskill, building on skills they already have? There may also be potential job losses. Will this technology phase out certain roles, or does it shift what work looks like for people in specific positions? Do the people in those roles have the skills they need for the new tasks? Through energy policy adoption, We have to consider that people may lose their jobs. And it's important to take care of workers who are displaced during the energy transition or due to the adoption of energy policy. Another challenge is the impact on mental health and workplace culture. Do your workers support the new policy or are they resistant to it? Are too many jobs at risk? How are we supporting workers' mental health and well being if we ask them to reskill or upskill, or if they're facing retrenchment or reorganization? These are all important challenges to consider when we think about the impact of energy policy adoption on workers. With that in mind, we do know that there are key skills that workers increasingly need. These include digital literacy or an understanding of the technologies required in the workplace, working with automated systems and AI, and finally, data handling. In a dynamic workplace where data is constantly collected and used to create models and improve systems, workers need to understand the steps involved in cleaning, analyzing, and visualizing data. While recognizing the challenges and skills needed for workplace adoption of energy policy, it's important to recognize the opportunities that exist as well. These include workplace trainings that align with necessary skills and ambitions both on a personal and company level, preserving learning time during work hours. Reskilling, upskilling, and training should take place as part of the workday and not in workers' personal time. In addition, there should be consistent planning to keep jobs and workers engaged by ensuring that people feel motivated and enthusiastic about the challenges and changes and adoptions. This engagement can be created with the safety that comes with understanding that their job is not at risk. There's also a role for inclusion support networks and positive work environment. Having support networks for marginalized communities in the workplace provides safe spaces where people can share their needs and challenges. These groups help ensure that people feel included and that their values are present in the adoption of energy policies. These groups should be given a voice in the decision-making process. Finally, there's a redefinition of evaluations. Workplace evaluations should be adjusted to encourage personal development as well as align with company goals. There should be funding or trainings, access to information, and opportunities for learning. And these should be done fairly and respectfully with regard for all people in the workplace. We've talked about the impact of energy policy adoption on workers. Now let's focus on consumers. Energy policy can impact aspects that are often unseen for consumers. For example, carbon tax increase the cost of fossil fuel-based energy. Therefore, people who cannot afford renewable energy are often disenfranchised and systemically negatively impacted for not having the means to produce their own energy. These taxes impact not only people experiencing energy poverty, but all people who cannot afford to produce their own energy. Then, emissions trading schemes set caps on emissions and allow trading of emission allowances. These mechanisms indirectly affect the price of fossil fuels, gasoline vehicles, and other goods and services that often remain unseen by consumers. Finally, feed-in tariffs guarantee a generation price and stimulate renewable energy generation. Here again, those who are at a disadvantage are the consumers who cannot afford to take advantage of subsidies or produce their own energy. In many cases, these consumers still contribute through their energy bills and unknowingly help support those who are able to afford new clean energy technologies. But fear not, there are also opportunities to engage energy consumers as well as adopt energy policies. These include the ability to form coalitions. Consumers can unite around a shared concern or goals, and coalitions can have a stronger, more coordinated voice in advocating for fair and inclusive policies. There are educational campaigns to raise awareness and inform consumers about their options and opportunities. These campaigns can be reimagined to better reach and benefit people in rental situations, as well as those who lack financial agency or other forms of autonomy to produce their own energy. Engaging policymakers to share insights and concerns about the adoption of energy policies at a large scale level is also an option. Finally, there's the use of digital platforms and social media to increase engagement and reach, as well as raise awareness about what your business or sector is doing in order to adopt energy policies. They can also showcase how you are working to make energy more affordable and accessible for your consumers and to create benefits for marginalized and excluded consumer groups. In this video, we learned about the social impact of adopting energy policies. We looked at how these policies affect both workers and consumers and how adoption can bring both positive and negative effects. At the same time, we saw that there are always opportunities to grow, to support people more effectively, and to connect with your user base. Thank you for your attention.